So it was absolutely amazing. Like, I went in with low expectations because it's Disney and live action and oh my god. It was so good. And
I saw the film a couple days ago, and this is my super spoiler review with a lot of details of me just basically gushing and fangirling over the film. So if you want to see one that's spoiler free, please hit the link below in the description for my spoiler free version. Based on just the visual effects alone, the Lola program that they use two different programs actually. The suit on set for Beast, but they also did Lola facial recognition later on. These visual effects programs, especially Lola in particular, because Lola was first introduced in X-Men 3 with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, and where they do the flashback to make them look younger. There is no sense to me, at least while watching it, that I feel like I'm watching computer-generated imaging at all. Like, it feels like these characters are actually in that world. We've just gotten to the point where visual effects are just really great. I don't think we could have been able to do this film sooner because of the advancements in visual effects. That aside, I now have to talk about the production design. And so for me, production design I really love, and I really love art department, and I think they did a really wonderful job of invoking that sort of 18th century France. It felt like maybe even a little bit earlier, maybe even late 17th century. From my knowledge of history and like how different trends happened with like costuming and music, there wasn't an exact year that I was able to place Beauty and the Beast, but it was more like an era. So you got that feel of, you know, the 18th century corsets and big skirts and the big wigs, pre-French Revolution kind of feeling. With the harpsichord and a lot of the arias and a lot of the music that are diegetic, that are inside the film. I mean, a lot of even, like, the plague mask was accurate. Kevin Kline as Maurice was amazing. I loved his portrayal of that, and I loved how he created music boxes, because those were also super popular, and I liked the fact that he was an artist, and it made more sense to me. It made a lot more sense for him to be that than the inventor. I liked how Belle was more of the inventor in this version. I also really loved how they filled a lot of the plot holes in some of the originals, as well as making references to the original French myth and the earlier versions of the Beauty and the Beast as a film and the earlier stories, as well as the musical. It also made more sense that they added that line about them being forgotten, that the spell had the townspeople forget that the castle even existed. I also really loved how the Enchantress was pretty much living as like this beggar in the streets, just watching everyone. I also really enjoyed the different mentions of and plays on French terms and just like a lot of French culture. One of my favorite scenes that I think I was the only one in the theater that busted out laughing during this was Gaston is talking about Belle, and he goes, she has a certain, and then LeFou says, je ne sais quoi, and Gaston says, I don't know what, but it's not that, or something like along the lines of that. And I love that scene because je ne sais quoi, it literally translates to I don't know what, but it's kind of been culturally adapted into like, it's got a special something, a special spark that you can't really put your finger on. So the fact that he's French and he couldn't understand a French term was just really funny to me. I'm just gonna apologize right now for my French pronunciations because it's been a few years since I've spoken French, so I'm a little rusty. I liked how they had, you know, Roy Lazita for director and musique originale, productions, chansons, décors for like the different for the different credits on top of the English credit. I think one of my biggest takeaways from the film was the fact that each character was more defined in this version and refined as characters than in the animated version or any other versions I've seen. Like even Lumiere and Plumette and Mrs. Potts and Cogsworth and even the townsfolk had very specific characterizations, and these characters were able to play on these characterizations even more, that they totally felt whole and complete characters. And just like little things, like how they would phrase things, how they would move, like their lines of dialogue were very specific to each character. I know that the director had sat with each of the actors and had discussed their individual characters to create this, and it really paid off, because that was one of my favorite things in the film, was just the fact that each character was so well refined. I loved the new songs. The new songs were amazing, and they made me feel really good that they were in there. I also really loved that Beast got his own ballad, his own solo, and I listened to that on repeat, and I have now currently bought the soundtrack in hard version, not iTunes version, because I love it so much. I love how they referenced Romeo and Juliet as a play, considering that probably the publication in which that Belle will be reading it would be the first folio version, or even a quarto version, and those would have just a bunch of works of Shakespeare all in one. Her favorite play was a more accurate statement than her favorite book. I also liked that instead of going to a bookstore or library, to showcase that it was a small-minded town that didn't have a whole lot of education, that only the upper class had books. I liked that Belle was able to get her books from the local minister, religious pastor authority, because he would have been one of the only people in the town that would own books. That made the library scene a lot more impactful, I think. It is so beautiful, and you get so much more backstory of the Beast and his childhood, and Belle and her childhood, and every character. It's you have more to work with, and it makes the story make sense, and it's amazing. I think my one nitpick is that the end is slightly cheesy. But it's a Disney princess fairy tale film, so it's going to be cheesy. I also didn't like that when her mother died of the plague, she kissed the rattle, and then Emma Watson got the rattle again later on, and then she also kissed it later. Pathogens is all I was thinking. You can spread the plague that way. It's not necessarily sterile, but it's, again, Disney fairy tale. So yeah, that's my super spoiler review. If you want to discuss more film-related topics about Beauty and the Beast or any other film, about production design, acting, cinematography, visual effects, anything like that, please leave a comment down below. What was your favorite part of the movie? I want to know. Were you as impressed with the visual effects as I was? If so, please leave a comment. Give me a like. If you want to see more videos, hit subscribe, and I'll see you on the flip side.